Before I get started, fair warning, this video contains spoilers for Season 1 of Upload. I'm gonna give you a few more seconds, to pause the video or click off, in case, I know me, I sometimes like to let YouTube videos play over my Bluetooth earbuds while I do laundry. I think I'm coming up to 30 seconds, so you should have had enough time. This has been your spoiler warning. Now let's get into the video. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Seetor, and this is Seetor Speaks. Today I want to speak to you about a show me and the girlfriend have been watching recently called Upload. This is a show I haven't really seen much discussion of online, so I wouldn't be surprised if you don't know about it either. It's an Amazon Prime original, or at least it gets marketed as an Amazon Prime original at my location. I've noticed that sometimes with like Netflix and Amazon and other streaming services, they will, market something as one of their originals, even though they only acquired some distribution rights. Like okay, I can't actually think of an example right now, but I remember there was a show that I was convinced was a Netflix original, and then when I talked to Americans about it, they said that it was one of their cable TV networks who produced it. Anyway, let me give you the basic synopsis of Upload. It's set in the future in 2033, and the unique thing is that humans are able to, after dying or just before dying, they are able to make a digital copy of their mind and upload it to what is basically a virtual world that they treat like a heaven. So a copy of your mind gets an avatar in this virtual world. Occasionally, living people are able to... You might hear in the background one of our cats stealing some dried mangoes for whatever reason. So the basic premise is the minds of dead people get avatars and even get to be visited sometimes by their living, significant others. Don't mind the cat tossing things on the ground, I'm sorry. But they're living significant others with virtual bodies. So for the living humans, it's like a VR experience, while for the deceased humans, it's like an actual virtual version of a world. A very luxurious version if the dead people put up the money for it. The main character is a computer programmer called Nathan, who dies under suspicious circumstances. Basically, his self-driving car refuses to recognize an obstruction on the way and just, goes full speed into, I think it was a garbage truck. And when he gets uploaded, the customer service representative notices that some of his memories have been altered. And it should be noted that Nathan didn't want to go to the virtual heaven, really. His overbearing girlfriend, whom he doesn't really want to be with, made the decision for him, or pressured him into making the decision, because she basically said, do you not want to be with me forever? To which he sort of non-committally does this sort of, sort of noise, which his girlfriend takes as a reason to fake cry, to which he agrees to get his brain scanned. And for some reason in this universe, the brain scans are destructive in the most literal of senses. They basically make your entire brain just blow up. On this, note a recommendation for a video for a friend of mine by the Burger Creek about brain scans. He basically says that there is absolutely no reason to assume that brain scans or mind uploading needs to be destructive in nature. So yeah, his girlfriend finances his stay at the most expensive of all digital heavens, called Lakeview, which is basically a luxury hotel by a lake with all kinds of amenities, and even an AI sort of concierge, room boy, kind of jack of all trades. And this gets into some really fucked up territory because, as I mentioned, Nathan doesn't really love his girlfriend Ingrid, but she uses her wallet to control him and keeps him almost like a pet. And whenever he, doesn't want to go through with one of her videos for some, interviews for some Boulevard Press outlet, she threatens to delete his, virtual copy, basically killing him. So, yeah, that's nice. This, set of circumstances gets very inconvenient when Nathan starts to fall in love with his angel, Nora, an angel being like a mix of customer service representative and tutorial guide-like character in video game terms. He basically can summon her by calling out Angel, and she, deals with any issues he has, fulfills him his wishes, etc. So yeah, Nathan starts to fall in love with Nora and doesn't love Ingrid, which, as you can imagine, Ingrid controlling him leads to some very, tense scenes. And most episodes deal with Nathan trying to adjust to the digital afterlife, Nora, his angel, attempting to navigate her dystopian capitalist nightmare of a job environment. It's basically like, the kind of pressure Amazon representatives are under, mixed with some Uber, because the angels get a star rating based on every interaction with the digital avatars of the dead people, which is, a star rating out of 5 stars, and some of them really have to bend over backwards to fulfill ridiculous wishes for the dead people in order to maintain a above 4-star rating, just like Uber drivers have to. And so Nora attempts to navigate this nightmare of a job environment, and Ingrid spends her times in these episodes being generally awful. And that brings me, that topic of Ingrid being awful brings me from the synopsis to my problems with the show. One of the most pressing of which is the flip-flopping of Ingrid's characterization. In some episodes, she gets cast as a manipulative, crazy as shit sociopath willing to just kill her boyfriend if he doesn't, perform as she wishes as basically her digital purse puppy. And in other episodes, she's shown to be this kind person who tries to get along with her family and tries to, and succeeds even in establishing a very kind relationship to Nathan's niece, and the back and forth is crazy. I remember in one of the episodes, Nathan basically has a virtual funeral. Virtual in that, there is a wake and all people are assembled in a, sort of pseudo church, which funnily enough has a praying emoji on the signage outside. And there, they get shown a randomly AI generated slideshow of some moments from Nathan's life, and his girlfriend makes a speech which ends up being mostly about her. and how great of a job she's doing being his girlfriend and making this very, funeral. Now, one of my next issues is the characterization of Nathan, who I would sum up his character as not in love with Ingrid, very much in love with Nora, and other than that, I don't know, very kind to people in somewhat of a bland way. Yeah, that's basically it. There's an aspect of his troubled past, because it gets revealed that in his job as a computer programmer, he did some shady dealings and screwed over one of his business partners. And I don't know. I'm just not satisfied with the Nathan we get presented. He seems so, I don't know, bog standard. And that's very surprising, considering the creators of the show are also the creators of Parks and Recreation, which I think does an excellent job of having very interesting characters. Other than that, he's normie make regular person, and it's exhausting, frankly. One of, my third issue with the show is a almost dangerous level of whiplash between dramatic moments and comedic moments. And, you can juggle drama and comedy, but the comedy is so inoffensive that it seems really out of place. A good example for this is when Nathan discovers the existence of so-called 2 gigs, which are residents of Lakeview who didn't have the money to maintain, the full luxury residence, so they get downgraded to only having 2 gigabytes of usable data per month in this digital world. And once it gets used up, they basically get frozen, in black and white in place for the rest of the month. It's really a nightmarish scenario. But, this episode is followed up by some, regular comedy, almost slapsticky stuff, even though at the end of the 2 gig episode, Nathan resolves to help them in some way. And that's just kind of dropped at the end of the show. He, I think briefly, becomes a 2 gig himself, and it's just a plot device, basically. He never does anything to help the 2 gigs. He just ends up joining them. And not out of, some kind of weird class solidarity, but because he doesn't want to be controlled by Ingrid anymore, so basically entirely selfish reasons. Now, one of the things I really enjoyed about this show is the cool world building, with some really insightful critiques, quote unquote, about the current trajectory of neoliberal capitalism. There are scenes which basically imply that there was some article recently prophesizing that in the future nobody would own anything and they'd be happy about it. And that's basically come true in this world. Everything is rented or leased. Nothing is your own property. Everything belongs either to a bank or to a rental service. Even bikes, nobody owns bikes anymore. They are semi-autonomous drones that you can ride and rent for a brief amount of time, and that then turn autonomous and just drive to presumably the renter's location. The government is implied to be powerless, but it's all, just background noise, which, pulls some of the punch from it. There's an episode that just, has a bit of a clash of the classes. Ingrid meets Nora in real life, and out of nowhere comments that she supports an increase of the minimum wage. To which Nora reacts, with a sort of "thank you?" ? Which, is fine for a joke and is a fine bit of world building, but I think they are pulling their punches somewhat because they are afraid of making things too serious. And I think they should commit and, show some of the very serious stuff that goes on in this world. And I think you can still make comedy in such a setting. Even a grimdark setting such as Warhammer 40k, if you're familiar with it, has some comedy in it. And life is awful in, the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, as they say. So yeah, that was my characterization. I don't want to call this a review because it's not structured enough to be a review. It's just a stream of consciousness, verbal diarrhea related to a show me and my girlfriend have watched, which has been, the thoughts about the show have been bothering me, and I needed an outlet for this. Tell me in the comments, this is something that I'm very curious about. Tell me if you've heard of or watched Upload yourself. Tell me what you thought about it, what you thought about my criticisms. Leave any feedback, do the usual, basically. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, ring the freaking doobly-doo bell, I don't know. Do the YouTube thing, and I'll see you around.